you think about Elon Musk with Trump and what's going on with that, and what would that alliance be like in prison, and what's going on there?
Oh, it's perfect. Look, Elon's the money and Trump's the power. Mm. There's a quote in House of Cards.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, and there's a billionaire talking to a congressman. Mm-hmm. The billionaire's flexing. He's like, I got this much billion. I can buy your whole state. This, that, and the other. And the congressman's just sitting back laughing. The congressman's not worth more than a couple $1 million. He's set, but he's not anywhere at billionaire level. And finally, the billionaire's like, what are you laughing at? He goes, you see, you got money, and you think that's something. That may be something in New York or Los Angeles, because I'm in D.C., this is the power center of the world. I got power. And power crushes money any day of the week. Because you can flex stuff and spend, because I can change the law. So, that's...
Swagger down the street with your red lips and funky beat. You better hold your head up to the sky. I'm gonna roll with you till the day I die.
All right, welcome to Pirate Soldier King. We are interviewing Gregory Roberts, the liver of the life and the teller of the story about crime, punishment, and the road to redemption. So today's topic is going to be all around politics. So, ready?
Hot topic.
Yep, hot topic. Well, let's get into it.
All right.
All right. Okay, so politics in prison. So that does exist?
It completely exists. It's the backbone of how things run in prison. Yes, as we mentioned before, like prison is run by the prisoners.
Yeah,
it's run by the inmates.
You were saying how many COs to like the prison population?
I mean, each unit, which is like a large room with 64 cells, is up to 128 people. So generally, like 110 to 120 inmates with 2 COs.
Wow.
So yeah, the COs pretty much stay in their office, which is basically a cell with a desk in it, and we do what we do.
All right. Okay. So one of the things we want to get into is kind of how prison relates to the broader geopolitical landscape they're in right now, because there's a lot going on.
Wow.
In politics.
That's a connection.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it. Geopolitical landscape. So but in terms of politics, if you could tell us how it's run in prison. What is we have like the House and the Congress and elected president, sure. Democracy, all these different things. So if we're going to think about how it's structured in prison, how does it actually work?
I would call it like multi-level tribalism. Each unit kind of has its own thing going on. Each of the gangs has a speaker or a head of the gang, or who says who has the keys to the car.
The keys to the car? What's that?
That's the shot caller. That's who basically tells everyone else what's going to happen and how it's going to work out. It's also the person who negotiates with the other heads of the gangs as to who has which table in the day room, who has which TV. What basically divvies up the physical space, and also pretty importantly settles disagreements, like when you have. Say I have a tribe member and you have a tribe member and they have a beef, one of them owes the other one money and they're not paying. How are we going to resolve this? So the bad way to resolve it is to have one gang put pressure on the other gang, because that brings everyone into the fray. Generally, the good way to resolve it is the gang resolves it interiorly. So the leader of the gang is going to go, hey, Johnny, you owe Ghost there like $2,000, either you're going to pay it or we're going to beat the shit out of you. And that's interior to the gang. So
they're policing themselves.
Yeah, because they want peace. And strangely enough, in many ways, that if you appropriately beat your own gang member to within an inch of his life, then the $2,000 debt is forgiven.
If you beat up your own person, because you took care of it.
Yeah. Because the lesson was made, and everyone said, "Oh, that's what happens if you don't pay $2,000." Got it, I'm paying. And it's a legitimate debt. I mean, these people, have gotten the debt through drugs or gambling or sort of these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so is there just one person in charge of the tribe? Like you said, the shot caller. But what are the different jobs you can have within the gang?
I mean, there's really only three. There's like speaker, who's the mouth,
Mm-hmm.
who does the talking to the other heads. Sometimes there's the hand. The hand is like, speaker says beat the shit out of that person, and the hand takes care of it. Like the hand is the action, the speaker is the mouth.
And then the head.
The speaker is pretty much the head. And
Okay.
so, but the reason I said multi-level is because I'm talking about like one unit, 120 men.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a prison, so that's 1,200 men, 10 units. And there's, like when we go to yard, the heads of the gangs, all the speakers coordinate within each other.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes there's like, you know, things trickle from thing to thing. Like people move around tiers, and you know the gangs have to be coordinated across the whole prison. And in fact, they're coordinated across the United States of America. And at the highest level, they interface with the street gangs.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there any story that you want to tell us about, like anything that's happened on a national level?
I mean, I can only really tell one story. It's fairly serious. Toward the end of my bid at Beaumont, we had just come out of lockdown, and they were letting out like 2 units at once, and you know, we heard the grenades go off because when violence happens in the yard, they launch grenades from the gun towers before they shoot. And it kind of shocks everyone. It's a big mushroom cloud like in the middle of the yard, and everyone hits the deck face down, except for the combatants. In this case, it was MS-13 and I think 2 Mexican cartel members or Mexican gang members who had actually like were acting out beef that happened at other prisons. But either 2 or 3 of them got killed in the ensuing melee. I mean, it was a stab out, and. So we went into hard lockdown. You know, basically in each tier you hit the deck. Like the guards hit the alarm, and everyone goes face down in their tier, and then you go into your cells and they lock you in. And so we were on lockdown for 2 months, and like not leaving our cells for 2 months. Maybe we got a shower every 4 days or something. In cuffs.
Fun times.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and but like on the 4th day, I think we got a memo from the warden saying, "Hey, you know, the entire United States federal prison system is locked down because they didn't want it. You know, that's gang versus gang, and that stuff echoes out." And so they brought in the FBI. You know, the FBI came in with like all their forensics and stuff, like a team of like 30 of them, and they took all the blood samples and stuff. But yeah, so that's an example of like things going sideways, and then the BOP acting to prevent it from going national. And by the time they got us out of lockdown, they pretty much moved a lot of speakers around,
Mm-hmm.
put some of them in ADX, which is Supermax, like basically isolated them from the system, and talked. They also, the wardens and the captains talked to all the speakers, and they're like, "Look, guarantee us that you're not ordering another hit. Like that there's no more retaliation. Guarantee us this is resolved." And they don't get you out of lockdown until they have the word of the gang heads that, yeah, okay, I've told my people not to act on this.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Okay, so the politics, what are the politics in place for? Is it for peace? Is it for resources? Is it for power? Like what?
All of the above.
Okay.
I'll start by saying, like, one of the fascinating things to me about prison is that politics is a verb. It's called politicking.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you first get in, people are like, you better get your politicking on point. You know, like, and then you see somebody, like, talking to other people, and they're like, look at that motherfucker. He's just politicking his ass off. And I was like, I couldn't get my head around it. I grew up in Washington, D.C., so I'm familiar with politics, but I couldn't understand the verb for the longest time. And I finally, like, it was part of my dictionary studies. It was like, what's politics? Politics is the manipulation and deployment of power.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, in influence to, like, manipulate masses into action. Like, that's what it is. It's the play of power. And how do you do that? You know, by alliances, by persuasion, coercion, you know, just every possible method. And I was like, so that's what politicking is. Politicking is flexing power and really building alliances so that when the shit hits the fan, you know who has your back and this sort of thing. The person who's got most people at their back is the person who's going to survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in terms of, like, you talk about, like, is it the alpha? You said they're all alpha males anyway in prison, but there's an alpha. Like,
I don't want to say all alpha. I'd say like alpha is a relative term, right? And it might be an abused term these days also. But like prison reminds me of a dog park. Like you dog park, 12 dogs come who've never met each other before. They all sniff each other's butts. Some of them like, some try to hump each other, right? It's like this power play, but at the end of 30 minutes, they figured out what the pecking order is. They figured out who's the dog who kick everybody else's ass. They figured out who's the dog who's reasonable and is not trying to hump everybody. Like, they sorted it out. And it's the same in prison. Like, there's all new fish in all the time. Like, every, 1 day to 10 days, there's a new person who comes on tier, someone else transfers or goes home. Not as much as in jail, but so every time someone comes in, it's like a disruption to the order, and you got to figure out where they sort. And so I wouldn't say everyone's alpha males. I would say that criminals tend to be more masculine than the metrosexuals of civilized America.
Okay.
They're comfortable with guns. They beat the shit out of people. They fight to survive. They speak their mind. Without forgiveness or worry. So I'd say it's a pretty strong crew. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then what was your role in the politics of prison?
Pretty much I stayed out of the way. I mean, for the most part. Strategically, I'll be transparent here. Like every time I got into a new tier or a new situation, I just aligned myself with like the biggest, strongest white motherfucker I could find. And then I went up to them and befriended them, just by being real and asking them about their lives and things like this. And then I made sure that I was their workout partner. Because when you work out with somebody, you bond with somebody. And a lot of prison workouts are like to prepare you for combat. So it's like when you're in sync, I'm doing 5 push-ups, you're doing 5 push-ups, and we're like looking at each other in the eye, we're like we're coaching each other, go, go, 2 more. That's like a bonding, and it's like, it feels like, okay, I've just worked out with this guy for like 30 days in a row for like 45 hours, like, yeah, if it goes down to a fight, yeah, we know each other, and we know how to push each other, and we'll have each other's backs. It may not be explicit, but you're building respect that way, because a lot of people half-ass workouts, even in prison. But I always went full throttle. So I was with guys much bigger than me, but I never gave up. And people drop out of the workout, and I was just like, no, I'm mind over matter. I don't care if my body is collapsing. Like, I will finish this workout with you. And then they were like, damn, like Phoenix, you look like a skinny ass white boy, but damn, you go through.
So that was your way to survive. Or at
I
least be aligned with the right person. So
yeah.
That's like a political move.
It was a political move. It wasn't. Right? I'm looking back on it, I see it. Like when I was in it, it wasn't really conscious. It was just like what I told myself. The story I told myself is, I want to get these guys are like freaking stacked, like specimens. I was like, I want to look like them, so I'll just work out with them. Looking back on it, I think it was a political survival move. Yeah, like it was.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so they have that. Yeah, that makes sense. So. How do people in politics, and you have these leaders, they don't get elected. You don't have votes, right? So they just
no, you don't. It's pretty much a meritocracy, not what merit might be deemed to be in the real world, but meritocracy being who spent the most time in the hardest prisons, and who has run the most gang operations on the street. So basically, the more hardcore criminal you are, the more respected you are as a leader on the yard. Because a lot of that is because you know how prisons operate. Like, you have the confidence and the vision to understand when to order violence and when to negotiate, and that's not something that a normal person is prepared for. Even someone in the military, they're on a different wavelength. So if you have prison experience and gang experience, you understand those nuances and when and how to call the shots, as well as when to call the shots. So people naturally look up to that.
And people would order someone to like order things around, right? Use their power. Like how do
Rarely.
they use their power?
Rarely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't flexed a lot. I mean, the most flexing I saw is like, I mean, like once the Mexican gang leader, he got really mad because he thought the workouts, were getting shoddy. Mm-hmm. And then like a third of the Hispanics weren't participating. Hispanics is mandatory. All of them must work out at you have to go to every yard. You have to get out there, you have to work out with the crew in sync. So they'd always have like 12 to 30 guys doing the workout hard. And it was all like endurance, basically burpees of every possible style and shape and kind. So that started to get like a little lazy. And so actually the head of that gang, he was my age and he didn't work out much. He just, because he operated things. But he actually came to the workout and he was like, look, motherfuckers, like you guys are sloppy. You're not ready for combat. He goes, I'm running the workout today and you're going to do it. And he was a little overweight too, but he whipped them into shape.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like real leaders, like they're leading an army.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Huh. Okay. That's great. So what is, you talked about like leading out of fear or being I don't know, out of respect, right? Or where does it actually come from? How do you lead in prison?
Here's a shout out to my son Maxwell. In my bank robbery days, I started to get really convinced of this like lone wolf role. Like the wolf is the apex predator, and I'm gonna go in and eat all the sheep, which are like the bankers and things. Like I am this, and that carried a little bit. And I was kind of expressing that to my son, just as an idea, not in the context of bank robbery, but just saying like, might makes right, kid. And the alpha, the leader of the pack is the one who can beat everyone else up. And he corrected me. He was like 12 years old. And he was like, Dad, that may be like a Darwinist alpha male, but he goes, the best thing is the compassionate alpha. He's like, we live in a civilized society, and the compassionate alpha, and I didn't even know what he was talking about. He's 12 years old. I'm like, well, explain. So he says, well, the compassionate alpha is actually the leader whose primary interest is the elevation of every member of his pack. So he's like finding out the buttons of each of his tribe members and finding out their flaws and helping them to address their flaws to make them better. So that everyone, what is it? The rising tide lifts all ships. Yeah, so he's not oppressing and bullying and enforcing. He's like everyone up, and so he's building respect through compassion for his tribe, and that really, he explained this to me, and that really affected me. I was like, I believe that. Like I think you're right, and it kind of changed my whole mechanism, and I saw that in prison. Like the gang members, I would say, maybe not. To the point of like, hey, let me mentor you type of thing. But
you seem like you got mentored a little bit.
I got mentored. Yeah, there and back again.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah, because it was a strange land to me, so I was doing a lot of listening. And sorting out my lessons from it. But yeah, so I'd say there's a mix in prison between like, so my inmate in prison. My first inmate at Beaumont was Travis, and he just looked at me straight. He was a very honest, great communicator, and he just basically like one night was like, "Look," he goes, "there is no respect that doesn't originate from fear. That's it." He goes, "If you think somebody can kill you, you respect them." And I was like, that doesn't square with my compassionate alpha theory. Yeah. And I was like, there's other ways to get it, Travis. He's like, nope, that's it. He goes, you may have all these lies above it, but in the root of it, it's if you think someone can kill you, you respect them. And
I mean, that would be in corporate America if they think they can fire you.
Yeah. If you equate, like, and I did as a CEO, equate firing with a sort of death, death of the employment, then yes, and on the compassionate side, you're giving your employees salaries and hopefully mentorship to make your company better, and you're you're essentially allowing them to provide for their families, pay their mortgage, put food on the table, buy nice clothes for their wife or kids or whatever, or themselves. So there's a provider role there. I mean, I always felt as CEO that the dark secret of CEOs is you're working for your freaking employees.
That is true.
You may sign their paychecks,
but you're working for them.
You're working your ass off to make sure that they keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
And does that happened in prison? Would they actually? I mean, I guess a guy with the Mexican gang who was making them stronger and better by kicking their ass.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So he was making them better.
Yeah.
And more likely to stay alive in prison.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Okay.
more likely to have their gang maintain the power. Yeah.
Right. And it did seem like from reading your book and talking to you that peace is the desired outcome. People
Absolutely.
do not want to go to war.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you kind of think about today and what's going on in the geopolitical landscape, and then again, it's politics, so we got to get into some gnarly stuff. So, what do you think is how do you view what's going on today? Do you have any kind of observations that might
Before
be
we get
different?
into that, I think it's a good time to mention our sponsor of this podcast.
Holy water.
Holy water.
There we go.
It's my preferred beverage of choice.
Exactly, because we're on the road to redemption, and what better than to drink some holy water?
Amen.
Celebrate life outside of prison as well.
Hydrate, don't hate.
Don't hate, hydrate.
Yeah. So you can use the promo code right here and get your holy water at a
There
Pirate
we
Soldier
go.
King discount.
All right, exactly. Keeping it holy.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that shout out,
You're welcome.
and mention our holy water. So, but in terms of what's going on politically now that you find interesting, or if you had a different perspective of it coming from your prison life to now, and you look at what's going on in politics, anything?
Yeah, a lot, yes. I for instance, Panama and Greenland. This may be unpopular. It will, but anyways, I fully support Trump saying, let's take Greenland and Panama.
Okay.
Globally, strategically, if you're playing the game risk or diplomacy, hell's yeah, you take those places. Greenland has 60,000 people. If we can somehow convince them, pay them $100,000 each, and get them to vote. Yeah, we're switching from Denmark to USA. Okay, that's done. Check it off the list. You got a whole, military base and whatever resources are there. Panama is obvious. It's like the Suez Canal. It's the only connection between Atlantic and Pacific for shipping lanes. China does effectively own that now. So while these things are a complete violation of the modern peace, one of the things that prison does, politically wise, is it strips it raw. Like, there's not a lot of bullshit. You're like, okay, what's the things? Money, power, drugs, and life, right? Like getting damaged or not. Americans don't like to admit what their tax dollars pay for and what our military does. And the Iraq War, Afghanistan, there's massive casualties on the other side there that are largely not acknowledged. Same with Gaza, perhaps. And we're paying for that.
How are you paying for it?
We pay our federal taxes every April. We write the check, or it was already taken from our paycheck, and whatever, 33% of that goes to our military budget, of which X percent is ammunition that is used to kill people or to enforce the destruction of property and people. I mean, that's what happens. If you tell that to most people, they're like, well, I don't want to deal with that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just pay my taxes and I'm a good citizen of the United States. But that's the real face of global power. There's a significant part of Afghanistan and Iraq that was done to secure oil pipelines, resources. It's the ugly truth. In prison, you're not worrying about how ugly that truth is because it's recognized. It's in civilization, it's a little more camouflaged, and I don't think that's necessarily healthy.
So what do you think that we should know that we don't know that we would know if we were in prison about the way the world works? I mean, you talked about how many people were killed in Iraq so we could get the oil, and our gas is cheaper than we were talking about how much we pay for gas versus Germany, or just help us understand some of the stuff that maybe we don't want to look at, but that's true.
I think the first thing I'd say is ride or die, which is who's got your back. Ride or die is kind of a gang thing. It's when the shooting starts, who's in your car, in your physical car that you're driving with that you trust, that's going to shoot back and protect you and you protect them and this sort of thing. Or, who's going to run from the cops with you? Like, these are very real serious things. Like, that can, they're life or death or prison or freedom, like major. And military people understand this inherently. Like, you're in the same platoon or squad. Like, you guys are going into combat. You have a ironclad agreement of like how you're protecting each other and what your reliance is. And we have best friends in the world, but I think a lot of times those aren't tested, and maybe we don't even know how deep they would go. Right? Like
we might say ride or die, but it's not true.
Right, well, right. But I hope it's true. And it's like, but how can you strip that away and find out? Like, if you're in South America, right, and the shit goes hella sideways and you get kidnapped or something, who can you call from America who's going to be on the next flight, like with $10,000 in the bag to save your ass and maybe a gun, right? Like, who is it? And knowing that, like, that in prison. You know if the shit hits the fan, like, who's going to really have your back. And I would say it'd be a good thing to know that. And most of us probably know that intuitively, but it's a good thing to know it, in the real world. And I'm sure that I don't play in the global political realm, but I'm sure it's good to know who your allies are also.
So, but now, like, with the United States kind of losing some of our allies, like, how would that... Maybe it's testing our allies. Okay, so how do you see it versus, like, how do you see what's going on right now where all these tariffs are happening, we're saying Greenland's ours, we're going to take, Panama Canal, we're going to change the name of the Gulf of America.
Well, that's done.
Yeah, right. So all the things, right?
Yeah.
So... That's
pure, I'd say it's Machiavellian politics mixed with absolute chaos. like there's some flipping tariffs back and forth and this sort of thing. It's destabilizing for sure. I don't think that anyone can judge. We'll look back 20 years and say either that was the worst presidency ever or it was twistedly brilliant. I would reserve judgment for quite some time because the things that are happening right now are pretty seismic. They're absolutely disruptive, but I wouldn't call the shot on whether it's like destructively disruptive or creative destruction that'll bring us to a better place.
So do you think that with Trump, he's more okay with just putting the ugly truth out there like you would in prison?
Yeah, and I think he's also a pathological liar, which complicates things. But yes, he certainly does not shy away from things. And some of the things he says are just are things that no one on the left will acknowledge, but are just true. He's saying we're negotiating globally, and tariffs are like a forcing function of that. It's true. He's wrecking the global order, and people are calling and kissing his ass. And presidents and Congress have been doing this for 100 years, but it's been double talked. It's been like, oh yes, we're having a summit, this, that, and the other, and Trump's just like, fuck them all. Let's come on, let's go. Now I don't know if has the right agenda for our country. Whether it's a personal agenda of him just to build his personal power and brand versus for the citizens, but he's doing what every president's done with the gloves off and he's calling a spade in many cases. Okay, so it's more like MMA fight versus football. That's a good metaphor. I'll buy that. Sure. Yeah. An MMA fight with clowns. That's an interesting. He likes MMA fighting. So I do. I love MMA. And also so does Trump. So anyway. Oh, nice. He watches that all the time. Anyway, so maybe there's an analogy there, just like gloves off. Yeah. It's definitely gloves off. And for people who want to see what's happening, who will be, oh, I can't believe he's doing that. If you actually want to strip down and see what's happening. It's like, oh, okay. It's been like that all along. Mm-hmm. These are it is negotiations. It is power struggles. Right. There are assets in the world, and China just does it a different way. China just moves into parts of Asia and breeds. Mm-hmm. They send in their people, and they fuck the locals, and they hybridize the population, both language and culturally. That's what happened in Tibet. Mm-hmm. But Trump's going a different style. He's going in a different style. Okay, and then the time will tell whether it works or not. Yeah. Right.
But this would be more, at least people in prison would understand this way of doing it because no one's trying to hide anything.
Yeah, people in prison are I'd say, 80% in favor of Trump.
80%.
Yeah, because they see him as a gangster.
Okay.
They were happy that he, went into all those cases, the federal and state cases, and pretty much came up victorious. He lost some civil cases, but pay the price, whatever.
And what about, and when you think about politics, you think about Elon Musk with Trump, and what's going on with that, and what would that alliance be like in prison, and what's going on there?
Oh, it's perfect. Look, Elon's the money and Trump's the power.
Mm.
There's a quote in this great show on TV about the presidency with Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, House of Cards.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, and there's a billionaire talking to a congressman.
Mm-hmm.
The billionaire's flexing. He's like, I got this much billion. I can buy your whole state. This, that, and the other. And the congressman's just sitting back laughing. The congressman's not worth more than a couple $1 million. He's set, but he's not anywhere at billionaire level. And finally, the billionaire's like, what are you laughing at? He goes, you see, you got money, and you think that's something. That may be something in New York or Los Angeles, because I'm in D.C., this is the power center of the world. I got power. And power crushes money any day of the week. Because you can flex stuff and spend, because I can change the law. So in prison there was actually the law is the gang order, but there's a guy who came in who had millions on the street, and but he was from a low power gang. He was kind of like his singular, and he was very strong, but he got kind of beat up and stuff at the start, and so he basically paid the Mexican gang $1 million cash to be part of their gang, and from then on, boom, he was right in there alongside, done. The deal was done.
So they bought the gang?
He bought membership into the gang, yeah.
So he went into their gang?
Yeah.
Through cash?
Yeah.
And then he got their power. Okay, so
well, he was a powerful entity himself. He was no one to trifle with, but I'm saying but he negotiated that in using cash.
Got it. And so Elon is kind of doing the same thing.
Yes, thank you for connecting that. Yeah, so Elon is basically buying his way, 150 million donations to the Trump campaign, and for as long as he'll last, as long as Trump will tolerate him, Trump definitely has the power. Trump could crush Elon in a second. Again, change the law, put on specific tariffs that target Tesla or SpaceX, or just he could federalize SpaceX, saying, look, Air Force is 80% of your contracts, we're just taking it. Here's the Defense Act. Thank you. Thanks for building it.
So if you're going to predict the future, do you think that's going to last the whole presidency?
No way.
No way?
No.
What's going to happen if you were in a crystal ball?
Trump's going to kick Musk to the curb.
When?
I don't know. Next year. I mean, Musk has already come out saying tariffs are a terrible idea. I can't believe you're doing this. You don't disrespect the king like that.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I actually tend to agree mostly with Musk on that, but it's I think politically, Musk has so much fuck you money that he just doesn't care, and so he's pretty much playing it as he plays it without he's not really trying to manipulate Trump. He's just his buddy, and he's enjoying the ride, and that ride's going to terminate at some point.
But then does he have any leverage with SpaceX? I mean, does he have technology, or could he just get kicked to the curb on SpaceX too?
No. I mean, he's not going to lose the government contracts. SpaceX is it's like Boeing or Northrop Grumman with the Defense Department. They're joined at the hip.
Right. So that's a safety move. I mean, at least that's the
business wise, I don't think SpaceX has any problems whatsoever. Power wise, I think Musk will just go back to being the richest person on Earth and no longer be sitting in the West Wing.
Okay, well, you think about kind of going from Biden to Trump, and we had friends in Europe, and we had friends in soft power, right, and different types of things, and more quote-unquote diplomacy. Now we have Trump, and now there's different people.
What's soft power?
Soft power is just influence, and we give money to Africa to cure AIDS, and we're building roads in different places. We're doing nice things for people, and so we have the soft power of ingratiating ourselves to them, right?
So social credit.
social credit, right? And we have some soft power because we're doing nice things for the world, right? So we take that away. We're like, okay, we're going to take away all that aid money, USAID,
All that goodwill.
all that goodwill, and we're going to take that, like, be a nice global citizen.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, fuck you, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to take our money away because it's a waste of money, right? And we're going to be more insular.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have that soft power, and then we just go in fear, it's like with these terrorists and start,
Is tariffs fear? Or is it just like economic negotiation? Economy is warfare.
Yeah.
So, it's just...
I mean, it's fear in terms of, like, you could take the stock market or certain economies like Canada could say, okay, I'm out of business now. I'm going to be in a massive recession. That's fear, right?
Maybe.
That would be fear if your whole economy gets upside down.
Yeah, but the global economy is pretty integrated at this point. Like, you see the stuff, like when the U.S. stock market tanked, the Nikkei index also tanked. They all tracked fairly closely, plus minus 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, I know we can't predict the future, but I'm just curious.
I think the question here is was the soft power ever real? We're doing I do believe in goodwill. Like, let's cure AIDS, let's cure malaria, let's cure polio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's do it as a gift to the world. I believe in that.
Right.
But the current administration doesn't, so we're removing those gifts. But the question is, like, there's no question that makes the world a better place, but is that actually power?
Okay. Well, who are our allies be if we can take this plan? So back to prison life, you do want allies, right? You don't want to just be like one island. You need to have allies to survive.
Yeah, like the whites were a minority in the federal prison system, so there was pretty much a national or at least a regional alliance between the Mexicans and the whites.
So it's like NAFTA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how Trump is like easing up on that, just like, okay, let's just get like this whole thing.
He's still treating Mexico nice.
Nice, exactly, because that's the alliance. They're like, okay, we're kind of connected.
That's the manufacturing.
Right.
I mean, Chevy is built, the engines are built in Deerfield, but Dearborn, but the cars are built in Mexico.
Right, but he's saying, forget about China.
That's been a long time coming.
Right.
I mean, look, China has our balls in a vice. They've had our balls in a vice for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
They control their currency rate. No one, the whole Forex is a free market globally, except China. China locks their currency rate, and anytime they want to do something, they're like, "Hey, 10%." Boop!
Mm-hmm.
And that alters the exchange rate like that by mandate. Mm-hmm. Everyone else is free market. So, and all our manufacturing, this is why Apple stock dropped 15%, because you have Shenzhen, which is 500,000 employees of Foxconn that makes every iPhone. They make 1 million iPhones a day, literally. Okay, so that's all China. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's an argument, a huge argument for getting it out of China, or at least, like the AFL-CIO. I actually many years ago talked to the head of AFL-CIO, and he was like, "Yeah, we can't get American wages any higher. Like it used to be, we're trying to get the factory workers up to $35, $45, $60 an hour, whatever, mm-hmm. like making them like 6-figure salaries." He was like, "That's not going to work anymore because the offshoring. The only way we're going to rise American salaries is by rising Chinese salaries first, because that's the competition. We need to be on an even playing field. So pay the Chinese 5 times more than they're getting now, improve their life, and that will improve the American life, because then we can start to actually compete." And China, there's still, I don't know what the actual wage is, but I'm pretty clear it's like less than $5 an hour, perhaps significantly
so we can't compete
less,
with that.
like $2 an hour maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
For skilled labor, like these are iPhone builders.
Wow.
That's a high-end piece of technology.
Mm-hmm. So
there's a dependency there that it doesn't necessarily have to come back to the U.S. because we just don't even have the skill sets for manufacturing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly should be distributed globally, and this is definitely going to force that trade war. Like,
okay.
that'll and again, I agree with Trump on this. It's going to be hella painful. Like when you go to Walmart, this should be plus 25% across the board on prices. Like it's all made in China. So the pain is coming soon.
Right.
I do believe there's a brighter horizon. Once this all gets sorted out, it's going to be ugly.
Okay. So another part of power and politicking is just money and how money moves around.
Yeah.
Right? So that brings us to another form of currency. So if you think about politics and the world order and moving money around, what do you think is going on with crypto? And how are the politics of that? You know, do you have any view of that? Did that happen in prison, or is that
no crypto in prison?
No crypto. So, but what would you say the political jockeying is right now when it comes to crypto?
I think crypto is the inevitable destination of global currency markets. You know, the federal government will have its own crypto, you know, authorized by the feds. Bank of America, Citibank, and Chase Manhattan will have their own crypto. So it's, you know, the irony of crypto is it started out being pretty much anarchists and libertarians. And especially with the Trump administration, there's total alignment. Like, crypto funded his election bid to a large degree. Mm-hmm. Like the crypto billionaires, who are these fringe young kids, you know, who it's not generational wealth. Like, they bought 1,000 Bitcoin when it was like 50 cents a Bitcoin and forgot about it. You know, and then Bitcoin's at 100,000. They're like, oh, I have $100 million. I mean, I've seen this, right?
Yeah.
Like guy who's done nothing his whole life suddenly buys a freaking Porsche in Miami, like a racing Porsche, GT3 RS.
Wow.
You know, so with Ethereum, like no cash, no bank, no nothing, just transfer the Ethereum and gets the car. So, you know, it's kind of a hidden power in the world. I was amused forever as, like, you know, I think the current crypto economy is around $2 trillion right now. Mm-hmm. So 2% of global GDP, just as far as a market cap. So and it is the better currencies, not Bitcoin, but the better currencies are probably some of the more efficient and distributed. You know, they're the most sophisticated transaction networks in the world. Mm-hmm. Circle might be the best one, like Ripple and Circle.
Okay.
So I think it's inevitable that it both basically gets adopted by governments and banks and financial systems, and that's blockchain is how it works.
All right, so this is going to wrap up our episode today. Lots more, and we're getting into meaty subjects today. So thank you, Gregory, for
spicy subjects.
Spicy, controversial. Yes. Okay, but we're going to wrap up this illuminating episode. And
be sure, I've always wanted to do this and I hate doing this, but be sure to like and subscribe. Reason being, for real, like, this helps us, and it helps us continue to produce these episodes. If you're enjoying or finding any value in them, your like makes a huge difference, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's true. And then go to drink-holy-water.com to support Holy Water, and that helps us as well. So,
and finally, the backbone of all this is Pirate Soldier King, the
yes.
book. And you can go to piratesoldierking.com, and please do order your own copy of it.
All right, and it's a page turner. So yes, pre-order a copy. It's really good. All right.
We will see you next week, and appreciate your viewership. And if you have any questions at all, we will answer all comments. So put something in the comments below, and we'll get to you.
All right. That's a wrap.
Right on.
All right.